Alright guys, Gemini back with another video, and let me show my cameras right here. Today we're going to be discussing It's Time, Vader time. If you guys remember, 1993 Vader ruled the professional wrestling world in the side of WCW. 93 over in the WWF, Lex Luger, the Lex Express, that was the hot angle when he slammed Yokozuna on the USS Intrepid. The Body Slam Challenge, July 4th, 1993. Put him in a school bus, painted up, and Luger toured the country, heading towards SummerSlam in Detroit when he faced Yokozuna. But over on the WCW side, it was Vader ruling the roost. Vader was the world champion basically all of 1993. In this event, Superbrawl 3 in Asheville, North Carolina, it was the White Castle of Fear. It was these strange vignettes that Dusty Rhodes came up with. And throughout the show, throughout Superbrawl 3, they ran these weird-ass vignettes. You had Tony Schiavone and Jesse the Body on the call. The origin of this event is kind of funny, too, because this came from... I had this event on VHS tape in the mid-90s because I jacked it from my friend John and never gave it back. He recorded this shit in Los Angeles when it happened, and I borrowed the tape from like 95, 96, and I never gave it back. But Superbrawl 3... will be noted for a couple memorable matches, starting with the Hollywood Blondes, Brian Pillman and Steve Austin, who were tremendous, and they beat Eric Watts and Marcus Bagwell. The fans never liked Eric Watts because they figured he only got his push because of Bill Watts, so the fans were giving Eric Watts a bunch of shit in that match, but it was cool to see Austin and Pillman tagging up. Now here's the match of the night. It's a classic among classics. A lot of guys still talk about this match from Superbrawl 3, and that was Too Cold Scorpio and Chris Benoit. I don't like Chris Benoit for what he did. Can't take away the man's wrestling talent, though. Davey Boy Smith and Wild Bill Irwin. Wild Bill Irwin in '96 would go over to the WWF and portray a wrestler known as the Goon with the hockey stick. But on this day, he did the job to the British Bulldog, who just entered WCW after the match. British Bulldog did a promo with Tony Schiavone where he botched about 15 times. He kept messing up, but... you know, Davey was a wonderful wrestler and a great human, but he never was the best on the mic. He did okay, though. Bulldog is a legend. Belongs in the Hall of Fame. Cactus Jack and Paul Orndorff had a pretty vicious street fight. You wouldn't really expect Paul Orndorff to be much of a street fighter. He's just tough. I mean, that's Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan to this day still says some of his injuries that he has is because of Paul Orndorff and the damage he did in the ring. Rock and Roll Express. Versus the Heavenly Bodies with Jim Cornette out there. You know, performance levels were high. Smoky Mountain style. This was in North Carolina. It made sense. Smoky Mountain country up there. Yeah, actually, you know, it's funny when I was watching this, I didn't expect the crowd to get involved, but they were popping for Corny when Corny was bumping, and pretty interesting to watch. And then Dustin Rhodes and Max Payne. Max Payne did the national anthem that night on his guitar. He named Betsy, which I think was a spin off of Full Metal Jacket. Max Payne might have been a spin off of the guy from Full Metal Jacket. You know, the guy who shot the drill instructor that shot himself. That's old school stuff, like 1986, 87 stuff. But yeah, Dustin Rhodes won by DQ. And then you had, oh man, this was a match that I remember. One of my top 10 favorite matches was Barry Windham and the Great Muta. And Windham won the title, the NWA title that night, but it was just legendary. I mean, to see two Hall of Famer. Muta's not in the Hall of Fame yet, but he will be. It was awesome. And then Flair came in. Flair had just come back to WCW. Missy Hyatt was chasing him around, and he had just come back from WWF. If you remember that, Kurt Hennig beat him on a retirement match, and then he went over to WCW like a month later, so he was back in the fold. Later beating Barry Windham at Beach Blast '93 for the title. But yeah, it was cool to see Flair back. Muta and Windham just in this hard-hitting battle. One of my favorite matches of all times. I still talk about that match to this day. And then the main event was the, make sure that you write it, the unsanctioned by WCW. They kept splashing that all over the screen. And then finally Vader won in the end. But yeah, Harley Race took some bumps and stuff, but it was pretty damn entertaining. It says the crowd was 6,500. Maybe they had that many people, and I don't think that many people will care that much about Superbrawl 3 and the White Castle of Fear and all that. Man, they were trying, though. They were trying. You could tell WCW at this point, February '93, they were struggling to draw crowds. They were struggling to draw numbers and whatnot. Still, overall, a solid wrestling show. Entertaining to watch. That White Castle Fear with Sting and Vader. So it's going to do it for this video. Leave your memories of the show. Joe and I thank you. Old School Binge continues. I'm watching Slamboree 94 right now. Have a good one.